Recording is now started.
Just in Ann Arbor last Friday. We were trying to get to a children's museum. Didn't realize that Morgan Wallen's concert was that same day.
Oof.
Yeah, so we could not get to it, couldn't find the parking. It's just like, get us out of here. But I say that because I saw the two posters that the Ann Arbor location had. They had people like,
Okay. It's 2:00, so we'll just start recording and let people come in and out. I think. Will, you want to go ahead and do your introductions? Yeah.
all right, so my name is Brittany. Full consultant of First Process Consulting. I also am the owner and president of Energy Control Power Lockup. I have a diverse background of over 15 years of experience in lean principles, health and safety, regulatory, process improvement, all of the fun things that I love and nerd out about over profits, manufacturing, healthcare. And actually within like the last 2 years, I've also been getting into government entities. So it's similar tools and techniques, just applied across different industries. I am a graduate of the University of Michigan, but I will wear state. So don't worry about that unless they're playing on both days. I will do yellow and blue. And of course, I'm a lifetime learner, so I have several different certifications. And such like Lean Six Sigma, Lean Leadership, Project Management, and more. And I have a wonderful family as well, my husband and my 4.5-year-old that's turning 13. Some here know some stories about that. But yeah, I'm really excited to be here and to talk about emergency response procedures. So in this session, I usually have this be an interactive session that's a little bit over an hour. So I compress this a little bit to 30 minutes, but we're going to focus on some practical ways to assess, build, and communicate and sustain emergency response procedures. So let's begin with what the session is designed to help you accomplish. Go ahead. So whether you are a business owner, a safety professional, a workplace leader, emergency preparedness depends on people knowing what to do. Bottom line, people need to know what to do before there's pressure, before there's confusion, before there's an incident. So today we're going to cover 3 things on how to start an emergency response procedure initiative. We're also going to talk about how to prioritize that work and the core elements that make up that plan and make that plan useful. So why should this work be a priority for every organization? Well, a strong emergency response program will deliver 3 outcomes. One, first, it's going to protect lives. That is number 1. Emergency preparedness procedures will protect lives. And second, it limits property damage and business disruption. And third, it will strengthen your organizational resilience and trust. And that could be your employees, that could be your community, it could be other internal or external stakeholders. They will gain confidence in your organization when they see that your organization is prepared and had practiced emergency response procedures. So the first practical step that I'd like to outline today is to understand how prepared your organization is right now. Go ahead to the next slide if you would. And I suggest on how to understand how prepared your organization is today, it is a gap analysis. So a gap analysis will allow you to do a comparison between your current state and the level of readiness your organization truly needs to be. So we can ask ourselves questions like, what emergencies are actual emergencies that could be foreseeable, depending on your operations or locations and things like that. What procedures may already exist is a good one. What resources do you have available and accessible? And what do employees actually know how to do? There could be a gap in between. We can have strong written policies and procedures, but if your people don't know how to actually perform that, that is a huge gap. And at the end of this, I do have physical copies of some tools and techniques. And then I can share electronically with Cindy as well to go along with the presentation here to help you get started with the gap analysis. So the outcome of your gap analysis should be able to give you clear list of your weaknesses, or I like to say opportunities, and not assumptions. Capabilities could be tested through drills, simulations, surveys, knowledge review. Again, the goal is not to have this long report. The goal is to have a useful list of opportunities to improve. So once your gaps are visible, the next question is, which gaps need attention first? Next slide, please. And how I suggest we go about that is through a risk assessment. So not every gap may carry the same level of risk. So we would use a risk assessment following your gap analysis to evaluate both likelihood and consequences. This risk assessment is designed to consider like human impacts, service interruption, property loss, business continuality, and of course the impact of the people. The human impact should always receive careful attention. And your risk assessment should help leadership or whoever's in charge of this initiative choose your first procedures to develop. Or maybe they need to be updated, or maybe we need to train to them, or maybe we need a test to verify. So we start with our gap analysis, understand our opportunities. We'll put it into our risk assessment, which I have tools that I can share, and that gives us our priorities. So once our priorities are selected, now we need a clear project structure. Thank you. So I suggest a project charter for this. This will turn your emergency procedure planning from just like a general concern to giving it purpose. It helps define the specific problems, the scope, what is intended, what do you actually plan to deliver, or what are those milestones to get there. And I highly encourage team members to be collaborative and find some form of role or ownership within this project charter. So this helps shape who our team will be and where we foresee them being the best fit in this initiative. Again, this project charter, we can keep it short. It's really just to use as a decision-making tool throughout our process and understand who our team is and what are kind of our milestones to get to where we want to be. The next item, after we assemble our project charter, well, we need to be sure that we have access to the right regulatory and technical resources. So we can move from a project charter to the core elements of emergency action plan, which is the one that says requirements.
There you go.
All right, so required elements. So we've discussed how to start and organize our work. Now we're going to focus on 4 elements that will make the emergency response procedure functional. So OSHA does have an emergency action plan framework, and it does provide a useful minimum structure. And under OSHA's emergency action plan standard, which is 191038, the plan does need to address how emergencies are reported. That is a requirement. It does need to include how employees will evacuate, or visitors, or contractors, anyone that enters your building or premises. It also does need to include how employees will be accounted for, or people will be accounted for, and what rescue or medical duties are assigned. It should also identify employees who may remain briefly to perform maybe critical operations like helping others evacuate, sweeping different spaces. We'll get into incident command structure here in a few slides. But ultimately, this plan needs to be available to your employees, contractors, other stakeholders. It's not a bad idea to share this plan with your local fire department or your closest urgent care or hospital. And one strong practical method of sharing like an evacuation plan could be a posted evacuation map. It's really important to communicate primary routes in addition to secondary alternative routes, exit, assembly areas, emergency equipment, spill kits, eye washes, fire extinguishers, all of the above.
Do you have tips, Brittany, for reaching out to local emergency response teams so that you can get their insight and their distance, their location from your facility, and so that you can share that data with them? Do you have best tips for that?
Maps, and this is where I'm at, this is what I'm trying to get to. Are there local resources that would be willing to, you know, help develop these or give feedback or suggestions? I'm fairly certain, I haven't heard of anybody saying no.
No, typically they want that information, right? And they want to know, my hope would be that they would even come out, if you're new or you're trying to put something together, they would come and say, oh, we can get a truck easier to one entrance than another, or we'll be coming from this direction. So it might be smart for us to make this plan. My hope is that it can be cooperative.
To your emergency. So yes, absolutely. I highly encourage that to make relationships with the people in your area that could potentially be responding to an emergency at the facility.
Okay.
But my main tip is just reach out.
Yeah.
The element that I really want to make sure is driven home is that the most important test is whether the written plan actually reflects your actual facility, actually reflects all your shifts, your visitors, your contractors, and specifically those site-specific conditions that your employees, visitors, community are exposed to or could potentially be exposed to. So it's okay to start with, you know, kind of a generic template to help form. But in the end, you really want to get to that detailed site-specific plan. And again, even that well-written plan could fail if communication is unclear or unavailable. So if we can go to communication.
Is that this one?
Yep.
Okay.
There we go. So
Yep.
I wanted to highlight some communication strategies. So an emergency communication should answer some 5 questions pretty quickly. What happened? What action should people take? Where should they go or what should they avoid? Who's directing that response? When will the next update be provided? So we should be defining who has authority to issue alerts, who contacts emergency services, as we just talked about, who's going to be communicating status and direction, and things that need to happen during an emergency. Not only with the people at the site, but it could be external stakeholders like emergency services. It could be a news channel even, right? When there's something big happening and the news channel, you know, shows up during your emergency, who's going to be the person to, you know, speak to them? Who's going to be communicating with families about the situation or something about, you know, the person who was involved in the emergency? And who's going to be by those internal updates? Keeping in mind that your communication channel should have a secondary option. We shouldn't just rely on technology because technology could fail. It could be shut down or disrupted during the emergency, or doesn't operate as needed when you think it's needed. So making sure that we have alternatives for alarms, public systems. We could do texting, we could do radios, phones, and, you know, there's several other backup methods as well. So communication must also work for every person who may be present. So what I mean by that is we need to have a plan in place for employees or visitors or stakeholders who may have disabilities possibly and need help exiting or being removed from some type of risk. Language needs. And also like possibly people working in higher noise or isolated areas as well to make sure that they can hear the alerts and communications and things like that. So clear communication is going to be reinforced by a clear command structure. So if we can move, yes, that one there. So an incident command system. This is going to be our command structure, and I have.
He's had a day. Look at that picture. He's had enough.
So your incident command system will support your adaptable planning, resource coordination, how your formal communication will happen, how your backup communication will happen. It also will incorporate like incident documentation. And so I do have a resource for you that I can share afterwards that will kind of outline different roles and responsibilities that are kind of like a generic outline to get you started. But of course, you can, depending on your facility or your site specific conditions, you could alter and customize to your specific location. So then I'll move into evacuation. This is the next one there.
Yeah. Okay.
So evacuation planning and shelter management. So when we do our gap analysis, when we do our risk assessment, and we start planning our emergency response procedures, we need to be sure that our decisions on where our shelter in places will be, where our evacuation points will be, are all based around your individual facility and where other hazards may be. So moving people can increase risk if the route takes them towards smoke or towards chemicals or towards another risk that could be a second emergency. So those are things that you want to consider when actually planning an evacuation route. Again, we touched on it needs to have primary and alternative routes as well. We touched on assistance for people who may need support, responsibilities for visitors and contractors, and a method for accounting for everyone. So the plan also needs coordination, accountability, and readiness at the destination. So if we can move to training and drills. So before actually implementing your emergency response procedure, you want to designate and train enough people to support that plan safely and orderly. So be sure to review the plan when it's developed. Make sure employees are involved in that plan as it's being developed. Make sure that, you know, people have assigned roles and relevant duties. And that when developing your emergency procedures, it's not a one-time project either. I'd like to point that out. As your facility evolves or the things that you do within the facility change, your emergency procedures should also evolve with them. So something that's really important about drills is it's not, you know, it's a die test, you know, pass or fail on whether your employee can memorize, you know, the emergency plan document. It's designed to really test whether your system truly works under those conditions. And that you or your people that are involved in the mission really assess those gaps, did the risk assessment, and kept people involved throughout the formation of your emergency plan. Another key point that I'd like to point out about drills and incidents even is that we should document those. And what I mean is not just pass or fail or that, you know, Fred did something wrong. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about what went wrong or what could have gone better and bringing people together to identify what are some solutions or things that we could think about to implement going forward. You know, we had the best written plan. We did training drills around it. It seemed to have worked, but we had an incident and we actually practiced it. Of course, you know, in the moment we're taking care of the situation, but afterwards we should be reflecting on what happened, what could we done differently, what failed, that kind of thing. And of course, all of those learnings could be carried into your next revision. So if we can go into documenting and recording, which I think is the next one or two.
There we go.
So documentation you should have it, your current plan documented, you should have revision history, included in that, training records, who's been trained, who's involved, in drills, the results of that drill, any audit findings, and of course, corrective actions, which I also like to see as opportunity for improvement. So it's really important to maintain one controlled version of an emergency procedure plan. So that way, you know, if you do a revision and you only update it, you know, in one spot, but we have that plan, it's 10 spots, and we need to make sure that all 10 spots have that updated plan and that it's communicated and people are trained to that new plan. Even if it's just one minor change, we should be getting everybody to look over that and make sure that they understand the new revision. Your documentation will give your organization the evidence needed to evaluate and improve the response. So if we can go to the health. Yeah, health incident recovery and evaluation. So after your incident or drill, evaluate the response while that information is fresh. Review timelines, decision-making, how did communication happen? Did accountability hold up? Were the resources used? And again, whether that procedure matched actual conditions. And with a post-incident, there most likely will be some reflection for opportunities to enhance that. We always want to convert your lessons learned to specific changes. That could be procedural changes, training, equipment, staffing, or communication processes. So improvement is complete only when those changes are really have effort towards them, or people are in a group around them to move those forward. Right, but then we just sustainment. Thank you. So this slide leads to my final element, which is about sustaining the plan over time. And it's not a one-time project. Plans become outdated when people change, your equipment changes, layouts change, bring in different materials, or something changes with what you're doing inside your facility. We need to go back to assessment. And I also suggest for a sustainment plan that we put together a committee that would have different roles within that committee to, put eyes on this emergency plan every so often and call them over and make sure that's still relevant and fits your site-specific needs. Of course, we should have scheduled drills going. We should be tracking our corrective actions or improvement, following through on those to make sure that those are completed or working towards progress within a reasonable time frame. And also all of this documentation of like training, drill performance, these could also be used as measures as well that would give you insight on readiness for emergency action planning as well. So I will wrap this up today by bringing this full process together. So we covered practical sequence of assessing your current state with the gap analysis, prioritizing your risk with the risk assessment, charter the work, which is your project charter on what are the milestones or the people you need to move this initiative forward. And build the required plan elements that you can, you can look on OSHA's website, or maybe depending on your location or what type of environment your facility is, there may be other regulatory bodies that you can rely on as well. OSHA has, some generic templates online, but you can also reach out to your local responders as well for help, or there's outside folks such as myself and others that can also help you with the regulatory pieces. And then we want to train and test your system. That's big. And then use what you learned to improve and sustain your readiness. So with that, thank you. I thank everybody for.
I have two questions. Okay, so tell me when people should reach out to consultants. I think oftentimes people think, oh, I've got it. So I want you to speak on that. And I think the second piece of this that I didn't hear is tagging in maybe whoever's making your equipment, or being sure that if you've got a CNC machine that comes from a certain manufacturer, or that you're getting all of the safety instructions from each individual piece of machinery, that it's not just solely about the work site itself, that each individual piece of machinery has its own safety. Can you talk to both of those? Okay.
This emergency planning and preparedness, like experience and knowledge. Safety is a wide umbrella, right? But there are specific lanes within safety that, certain folks have a little bit more experience or knowledge or know where to find the information.
Mhm.
Like if you ask me to, you know, provide a certification for CPI, well, that's not me.
Mhm.
But if you ask me to help with the evacuation map, absolutely. If you ask me to help out with blackout tagout, absolutely. Any policies, procedures, you know, so there's specific people that have specific knowledge and experience. And so I guess it would be based on comfortability. I think that it's not a bad idea in the beginning to just get an evaluation, like, hey, this is what we currently have and this is what we don't have. Can you put an outline together on some steps to get us to where we need to be or help us identify where our gaps are? I don't think it's a bad idea in the beginning to make sure that we're not putting a bunch of time and effort into something that may be missing some core elements that you just weren't aware of. So that was my answer to question one.
Okay.
And then question two, when bringing in specific equipment, I think you might be talking more along the
Well,
lines.
sometimes people even, we often get new pieces of machinery and we forget to update safety practices, but sometimes people get refurbished things or, you know, they may not come with the original set of safety standards. So I'm just wondering if there are ways that we can encourage people or what you've seen or ways that we can always stay on top of new things so that safety stays in front of us and that we're always updating these things and we think about that with each piece of
Yes. Of equipment or a new capability in our facility that someone with a safety background or EHS background should be involved in that, just as if operations and maintenance and all the contractors to run power or, you know, condition the floor or whatever it may be needed for that piece of equipment. Someone with a safety background needs to be involved as well to ensure that a risk assessment is done on that piece of equipment or machine or a new capability. And that it has the correct manuals, that PPE is determined and will be available before it's in use. And then, of course, my favorite lockout tag on the placard also needs to be included as well in every individual piece of equipment or machinery. So those are my suggestions that it seems easy just to bring in a new capability or a piece of equipment, but it takes a cross-functional team to, you know, dot the i's and cross the t's to make sure everything is in good condition before it's used.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we will, you can send us whatever you have and I will add this PDF to newsletters and things like that. And we'll just hope that they have a familiar face that they can reach out to. Okay. Brian, I am going to switch over your slideshow now. And just point at me or something when you want me to switch yeah. Or wait a minute, you might, it's not through PowerPoint, it's on Google, so let's just do it that way.
Welcome everyone. I'm Brian Neuman. I'm the Environmental Health Safety and Facilities Manager for Grain and Protein Technologies, formerly Munters. I've probably been some of you on a tour with Cindy and the group, you know, along the way. I've got some updates to some equipment and improvements on environmental and safety initiatives that we've done over the last couple of months and that sort of thing. So you can go to the next slide there. I see this as formatting, you know, the right way, but on the environmental front, we just completed a relamping of our 95,000 square foot production facility, and we replaced the original 2016 LED lights. We're starting to dim down, lose the lumens and not give the workforce the proper lighting that we expected out there. They consisted of 2-strip and 4-strip quadrant LED lights, and some of them were starting to fail and being 10 years old, kind of coming to the end of life and not being able to find direct replacements. We started having about 4 or 5 oddballs on that by electricians. So we decided to, you know, go into an agreement. Our parent company, owns a lighting company, so we kind of got the friends and family discount, on some new lighting. So we went, from square lighting onto, the UFO round, style, lighting, and, it's using half of the wattage that, the old lighting did, and we're getting more lumens and, brighter pattern. I've got some photos in the coming slides,
Wow.
and that sort of thing. Right now, our June average was about $4.47 per kilowatt hour, for our water and light, electric use. Hopefully through the month of July, we'll have a whole month of, electric use. Haven't had too much overtime, so we're not really running over what we did in June, so it should be a pretty fair, estimate when the bill arrives in August, we get into a comparison to what, we're looking at, because the warehouse lighting, we went from everything being on, for 10 hours, and, plus, the office workers over there, around 5 o'clock hour, down to, occupancy sensors in the warehouse. So these lights are on timers and they, go dark. When somebody comes within 20 feet of this, occupancy sensor, the light comes on. And then, as it doesn't sense any more movement, it does this thing and goes back out. So you can go to the next slide.
I haven't heard the term relamping before. Is that new? Did you make that up? I have never heard. Have you heard that before? Relamping?
That's in here often, but
I like it.
It's an older term back from the fluorescent tube and the metal halide, eras when you went through and we put in the fluorescent tubes when they got the black light.
Yeah.
And
I like it.
so we did a little more than just relamping. We refixed.
Yeah.
106 light fixtures in the 95,000 square feet that we replaced. We added 4 more to areas that weren't quite lit where we wanted them to be. So we added 4 more lights in there. And on the picture on the left-hand side of the screen, you can kind of see the warehouse area. That actually goes for about another 400 feet or so, not 400, about 100 feet. And goes back to that red dot in the background, which is the exit sign. And then, as more trucks go back there or people venture back there, those lights kick on automatically. Like the way the picture on the right-hand side is our production facility. Those are a larger UFO light, more wattage, and provide a full cast of light down onto the production line. So we've got, these are adjustable in 3 different wattages and 3 different patterns, for a narrow band, wide band, medium band light patterns, and we've got these spread out, so we don't create any shadows, from the equipment and other things that are in there. So those stay on all the time. We didn't put occupancy sensors on there. So again, hopefully we're going to see pretty good electrical savings, by having these lights turn out and not come on when nobody's there, and that sort of thing. So go to the next slide. So another improvement that we did, our original production line layout, we had 9 lines going across that square footage. And they had 7 different types of saws, from ball chop saws to table saw, and upcut saws, miter saws, and double miter saws. So we had 7 different saws with their own individual dust collectors. And so it made, for a lot of different maintenance requirements, cleaning, end of shift cleaning, it took quite a while because it is a dust collector, but you still get the odor of all of the other dust. And, so it really took a lot to do the cleanup. And they allotted about 20 minutes at the end of the shift for cleanup and for the production lines to go home. But what we did is we put a centralized saw system in. So all of the 6 of the 7 saws are connected to this centralized dust collection system. And you can go to the next slide. So we've got the white sock tubes there, the black catch bin on the bottom of that rolls out. So we can just take that from the fork truck, take it right out to the dumpster. and dump that automatically. We don't have to deal with barrels and heavy plastic bags, that sort of thing. So we've got that. The middle picture is kind of the lineup of the saws and where we've got our drops in there. The 4 yellow saws on our sliding table saw. Then we go to the other 5 saws that are back there. We've got 3-foot maintenance aisle behind or between those, so we can get behind there and do our maintenance and do some other cleanup and that sort of thing. The previous slide had notes on there. We cut out 10 minutes on cleanup time. You can see on some of the ergo maps, some of the dust that collects. But we've reduced our cleanup time in the saw areas by 10 minutes. Because we've got 5,000 CFM, which is the largest collector you can put indoors without air for them. And it does a wonderful job for the saws that you've got hooked up to that. So that's one thing that we've done there. One of the downsides of that, it is louder in that considered area by about 5 to 10 decibels. So we're already required hearing protection. It's just another level of decibels that we have to protect against. We can go to the next slide. So safety process, we've got our line number 8. We build ventilation fans for agricultural. I guess I should have said that in the beginning. But, so we've got anywhere from 18-inch in diameter to 74-inch in diameter agricultural fans for chicken, hogs, and dairy farms. This particular line is dedicated to our 54-inch fan. We can build single fans, or we can build kits of 6 fans, and they're all nested together and crated, and then shipped to the customer from that point. In this, we made some, risk assessments. Brittany talked about those for emergency plans, but we did this for JHA, job hazard analysis, and we've got some repetitive stuff, some heavier lifting, required to lift 50-pound boxes of brackets and parts that get put onto this crate. We've got 50-pound electrical motors that we have to lift. So, in the second time, about 8 to 10 minutes, some employee has got to lift about 450 pounds in that 8 minutes, to put the 6 motors on there, put 3 of the boxes on of pieces and parts. So we bought this vacuum system. So it's a large superstructure. It's got 3 bridges on it, and it has vacuum lifters on there. And you can go to the next slide. And so you can see here, one of them that's hanging. It's got 3 suction pads on there. That's a suction pad for our doors. That's a 75-pound box, and we can put this on there, and they can lift that up effortlessly. They just move it around, and they can walk it over to the crate, put it down, go back and grab the second box and put it on there as well. Before, they had to really, pick it up, by hand and kind of shuffle around and, carry that over there. Again, 8 to 10 minutes, they had to cycle through, 75-pound door boxes. With doing this improvement, we've actually cut down production time by 5 minutes on assembling the crates and that sort of thing. We've actually saved 1 employee, from being assigned to that also, so we could reassign them to, other work that needs to be done. So we really made some improvements on our processes, as well as our safety and preventing back injuries and, more ergonomic friendly type designs. We're in the process of really looking at other areas that we can look at on this. We've got 2 more bridges that just came in, and we're going to put tool balancers on there, and hang our nail guns and our air stricklers on there, so people aren't having to hang on to that and reach across and use those in a fashion where their shoulders are outreached and they're doing a lot of the getting stiff necks and sore muscles from holding that 8 to 10 pound nail gun up there. So this is kind of eliminated a lot of our back strains, as I said, more of the ergonomic issues that have come up. And the next slide, there's a couple of pictures of the other 2 vacuum lifters. The those are the boxes that weigh 50 pounds. They've got to carry 3 of those off of that spring table and put it on a crate. They can take those pads, put it back top there, create the vacuum, and they can lift that up and just move it right over and set it down. They have really developed a pretty good routine, so they're getting quicker and quicker at using this. And then with that red, gate valve there, you can turn that off, and that stops the air to the vacuum pads. And then transfers that over to the vacuum motor, so you can use that separate hook, to lift up to 140 pounds, so. There's some other, plans that we have. We have to build a bottom crate, with 2x4s that weighs 75 pounds. We were having a manufactured fork system that will hang from that hook. We'll be able to pick that crate up off the jig, put that down on the floor. Right now, 2 people have to lift it up, and then they have to squat down and put it on the floor. So we're eliminating those back strains and possible injuries as well with that. So. We can go to the next slide. I think, as far as questions on what we've accomplished, we've done a lot of different projects in the facility. Cindy's been there and seen a lot of them, ergonomic matting and, different things, making things easier, more safe.
Even the stretching that you do is impressive.
Yeah.
Just making sure everybody has their little exercises in before their shift. Mm-hmm.
We've got working right now, but a physical trainer that comes in fit for work, comes in every Wednesday from 6 until 9:30. Works with people for pre-injury, aches and pains and things like that. They walk around, do some evaluations, watch postures and people that are doing lifting. If they're chicken winging, using different drills and things, to make some on the spot corrections. So that's worked out really well for us, as a preventative measure on a lot of our injuries.
It's a good thing.
All right.
So now,
Yeah.
is it meant to go to white? Okay. 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 We got it.
So here to promote, human safety, we do, particular classes in CPR, first aid, AED, operation, bloodborne pathogens. That's our core program, to get people trained, on those skills to, help out in workplaces. So if there are emergencies and we've got emergency, teams that respond, they'll have the knowledge, the confidence to, make a difference and, be able to, move forward and, give life-saving, efforts to people, at the workplace, or even at home, if they're, at home and neighbor, is mowing the lawn and they fall over and go over and, have some good skills. Go ahead.
Do you go on site, Brian? So if I'm a manufacturer, you'll come to my facility?
Absolutely.
And then Olivia, you do some CPR training and things here at JAMA as well? Okay, I just wanted to say that out loud, just so that we make sure that we're sharing. CPR is important and you can bring it to them if you need to, but.
Yeah. So we have trained during business hours and that sort of thing. My wife and I do this. We started the business in 2019 and later, probably in the September, October timeframe, and we were just getting started and then COVID hit, so that kind of put the brakes on, everybody gathering to do training and things like that. But we're starting to rebuild and get more clients and that sort of thing, So she takes, classes on and I can take classes on. You can go to the next slide, Cindy.
Okay, there we go.
So about me, I've got 27 years in EHS. Got 17 years as a volunteer firefighter, EMT for the Charlotte Fire Department. I'm an OSHA 10 30-hour outreach instructor. I've got all of my OSHA level 1 and 2 and all of the other management courses that they offer in that MTI track completed. Got a specialist certificate from Eastern Michigan University in occupational health and safety. So I didn't list up there. My wife Linda is a 20-year retired paramedic, she's got experience in advanced pediatric trauma and cardiac life supports, 10 years in the emergency room care. She is a certified instructor in the LSU was on, the job as the paramedic as well. So she taught, classes at level and, those type of things as well. So that's the experience that we have. You can go to the next slide. And then we talk, about CPR, all ages, all the way up through, they just released the 2025 standards. We've incorporated that into our training, as well, AED, first aid, bloodborne pathogens. Basic life support level, since I'm still a licensed EMT, I can teach that level of training. So.
How often do they change the standards? You said 2025. Is it every year that they update? Okay. Okay.
Standards.
Okay.
Last big change was actually 10 years ago in 2015. So it's not all that often. I think small changes along the way and that sort of stuff, but this one added, a few other things, into the choking standard for first aid, adult choking, maybe you roll them over and give them 5 back blows.
Yeah.
Now they want you to do that to adults, before you even try to do the abdominal thrust.
Really?
So now they want you to, just somebody between the shoulder blades to try to force, whatever's blocking their airway.
That's news to me. That's interesting. And I'm sure to a lot of people who have just been doing it the same way forever and trying to figure out how to make that happen. With an adult, with a child, it's easier. Yeah, yeah.
Good baby and. But yeah, they found that, doing back blows on adults now is enough to kind of jolt it and try to, get it to dislodge, from the airway.
Interesting.
You can always do the mom trick too, you jerk your arm up. And it causes the airway to open up and a lot of times they have cough out too. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
So we do provide hands-on training, as Cindy asked, we come on site. We've got 12 adult mannequins, we've got 8 baby mannequins, we've got 2 baby trainers. We've got EpiPen and Arcan trainers, we've got choking simulators, there that the gentleman in the lower corner has got on. And that one there we save for last because it's usually a fun, everyone exercise. And we've got there's a tube there. I don't know if you can see it quite with everything blending in, but there's a Nerf style choking piece in there. If you do it correctly, you can shoot that Nerf sponge out.
Oh, interesting. That's a new training method that people are using. Have you seen that before?
So those are some of the training devices we've got. Everything is interactive. Upper left corner is tourniquet practice, so again, anything blue in training world is a training item, so it can't hurt you. So we do, teach how to, place tourniquets now. And, 20 years ago, it was like nobody ever does tourniquets. Now they're promoting the use of it. And,
really?
They can do some pretty good, amazing stuff with vascular surgery now and stuff. Used to be you put a tourniquet on, you might as well,
Your arms.
say goodbye to that part of your body. But now they're saving a lot. Within 6 hours, if they can get to it, pretty good chance you can save the limb.
So all of these new things, clearly it helps to have somebody specifically assigned to safety, right? Or have someone that that's kind of your safety liaison, even if it's externally, because what I'm hearing is there are all of these changes that happen or all of these new things that come out or new ways of doing safe things. And just because it was in practice last year or 5 years ago when you put your plan in place, it may be very different.
Correct.
Now the standards are different.
Something that's been in the circulation.
So interesting.
People don't know that as general laypersons giving CPR, you're not required to do rescue breaths anymore. They found out medically that the compression and the release of good CPR exchanges enough volume of air through the trachea and so forth to sustain a good.
Skip the breathing and do more of the,
You
okay.
just don't get the volume that you would if you give your rescue breaths. We still highly encourage it, but people are comfortable doing it, but it's not required.
Wow. So much
As an EMT and medic and, healthcare provider, you have to give. Part of it for us, But, folks that get the 2-year certification, for use of work or, own type thing, you're not required to do that.
Okay. Interesting.
There's a few more pictures in there,
Oh, there's his baby. Yeah.
That's the DPW Department of the City of Charlotte, doing the hands-on training and, coddling the babies and making sure they're safe and so forth. Next slide. This is a daycare that, we were teaching over in Eaton Rapids.
Mm-hmm.
And also, so they have to recertify as daycare providers. Next slide. Then our contact information, our website is Neuman-safety.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can go out there and check out, the other offerings. We've got, consulting on there and, the OSHA classes. Those are pretty limited right now. I'm still trying to feel my way around that, because, unfortunately, to meet the requirements of the customers in the workplaces, I have to take PTO from my job
Mm-hmm.
to teach, those classes. My wife's not certified in any OSHA classes, so, I'm responsible for teaching those and, so it's been a little juggling.
Little
act
balance,
to be
yeah.
to Try to get that, scheduled. So,
All right. Well, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you both. We are going to share the video and your presentations in our newsletters and on socials, and we will keep you posted, but we appreciate you all being here.